Every offseason, NBA teams think they're about to get smarter. Boston Celtics sacrificed number 36 for their title, became the franchise smarter. When free agency hits, half the league starts acting drunk after happy hour, signing max contracts, leaving those franchises with no more power. Nico Harrison gone, 2025's biggest con. Regrets will always be part of life, but catastrophic life-altering events are decisions many will never recover from. Pivotal moments that'll leave your favorite team ringless in your lifetime. The biggest regrets of this past free agent signings a month into the season, starting with the Los Angeles Clippers. It's over. Give it up. Quit. Clean the house. First of all, they decide Bradley Beal was the guy to replace Norman Powell, an absolute travesty of all-time epic bad decisions. Powell was the reason behind the team overachieving last regular season despite letting go of Paul George. Now having to apply for a disabled player exception. Jokes on the Clips, a disabled player might be better than Beal at this point. This franchise stalling for no reason. James Harden literally fighting for his playoff streak as early as November. This team hasn't made it out the first round since 2021. The atrocity of Lawrence Frank tenure doesn't get talked about enough, as the GM should be fired already. Somehow, Beal signed the remaining amount of the mid-level exception, and he's just as hated as a Clipper as much as being a max player with Phoenix. No team should have signed Beal in the first place after what Anthony Edwards did to him 2024 playoffs, getting rid of a future first-time All-Star. As long as he's healthy, there's no doubt Norman Powell will become an All-Star come 2026 being in the East. Reluctant to give Powell a long-term extension, he's a way more valuable asset than king of low management Kawhi Leonard, especially in regular season. If the Clippers wanted to win games, you absolutely had to pay Powell for all of Kawhi's missed time. Now James Harden getting run to the ground might not have the legs come January. Doing the Norman-John Collins trade in order to sign Beal, thinking they got a 2-for-1, one of the most brain-dead delusional decisions any franchise can make. Team struggling mightily, that's with James Harden playing like a top 10 player, while Norman's the number 1 offense for Miami, averaging above 25 on 50, 47, 93 shooting splits. John Collins, on the other hand, just naturally athletic, getting rid of a guy who's even looking to get better. For 6 games of Bradley, injury prone never heals Beal. For all we know, there's a chance Mr. Beal himself might have already played his final NBA game. Clippers staff will need to hire a doctor for each player at this point. Of course, waited till very last minute, signing depleted 37-year-old Brook Lopez, miraculously held up all those years in Milwaukee after getting the vet minimum back in 2018-19, only to have over a $100 million contract. Father Time can only do so much at this stage of his career, looking more like Brother Robin his last few seasons. Had Jovic dropped 55 on him, receiving 2 years $18 million, bit too high. Lopez shouldn't be worth more than a vet's minimum. First 10 games of November, Brook grabbing 1 offensive rebound in 139 possible minutes. A washed up 40-year-old Chris Paul has more offensive boards than his 7-footer, and he's received many DMPs. Way too slow-footed. Respect to him for an outstanding career transformation. Will be remembered as one of the repeated cycle victims of Clippers' second and third string bigs over the years. Fans have PTSD over again. When desperate franchise makes desperate decisions, signing all these former big namers makes the 2025-26 Clippers the biggest meme team of the early season. It's only gonna get worse. Chris Paul, at least he's off the hook with the roasting. Officially announced his retirement, hasn't been the same since 2022. One of the guys who might not have gotten a ring but left the game better than he found it, deserves the utmost props for unleashing SGA. If you're gonna be this bad, with all the respect, is having a farewell tour even necessary when you're averaging 2 points per game? Last season, playing all 82 contests would have been the perfect rodeo. Nick Batum, half-assistant coach, a part-time player, while able to still get crunch time minutes, not a bad farewell for a good career role player. Dennis Schröder to Sacramento, only 4 more teams played, then he will surpass Ish Smith for most franchises suited up. Sacramento easily his least memorable, averaging a typical 12-6, wasting away in a disastrous franchise. That's been half his career. 3 years, $44 million in a sign and trade, always been a good FIBA great, but his biggest NBA problem, not being a good role player while dominant as a first option outside the NBA. More known for getting passed around like a hot potato. The type of guy good enough to be traded in most instances, but not good enough to be made untouchable. The perfect trade piece, playing with Zach LaVine and DeRozan ain't saving the franchise. Even got beat out by the older Russell Westbrook in the starting lineup. Schröder adds nothing to Sacramento. They stink regardless whether he's there or not, suiting up for a dead-end franchise, literally the Wizards of the West. Detroit not missing out on any sleep, giving up their backup after finding hidden gem, the undrafted Dennis Jenkins out of St. John's. Schröder on his way to an 11 team before the deadline. That answer's probable. Orlando signing Tyus Jones, 1 year $7 million, an absolute travesty of a start. From supposedly taking less money to fit in with the Suns to now borderline not NBA material, under 2 points a game. After averaging double figures each of the previous 3 seasons, he's still only 29 years old, plays like he's just content being in the NBA. Not a good fit despite the team weak at the point guard position, the type of player fans been begging to have for years, but once they finally have him, play a couple games, nobody wants him. Could Tyus be one of those many examples where short point guards listed 6 foot and under fall off overnight without any signs of slowing down? When an undersized NBA guard with normal speed in his young days becomes even slower, the game just moves too fast. Given his lack of strength with no D, not special enough offensively to make up for those flaws, especially in bigger lineups, Tyus the type of guy to get hunted relentlessly on D. A walking liability when he checks in, one of the few players who bet on himself and failed miserably, having one of the worst offensive coaches, Jamel Mosley, only rooting Tyus' career. Jones' awful start, making Magic fans actually miss Markelle Fultz just a bit. Golden State stalling the pathetic Jonathan Kuminga fiasco, the biggest drag in the history of restricted free agency. Took forever to get a deal done, didn't solve anything. Everybody numb to his struggles fitting in with Golden State. Steve Kerr doesn't like the 23-year-old, has lots of talent but no identity, started strong as expected but cooled off quickly, lost his starting spot, his inconsistency, not good for his trade value, an unnecessary distraction to the team looking to maintain its contending window. The fact that they didn't even want to trade him to Sacramento, there's no dread there. Every Warriors fan waiting till January 15 when he's finally able to be traded, the most talked about random player over the last 6 months. If he can't figure out how to work with Steph, Jimmy, and Dre, just get rid of him ASAP. Golden State fans begging. If Joe Dumars elects to trade Trey Murphy, matching salaries for Kuminga, but that's fool's gold at this point. His reputation around the association already a negative rap. D'Angelo Russell literally does nothing for the Mavs, even on a bad team, no Kyrie, no AD. He still comes off the bench. Jason Kidd has no hope for D'Lo from the start, making Cooper Flag run the point, super inefficient numbers. Every year, with the exception to 2019, D'Lo's been a roller coaster. The biggest heat check, too unpredictable, not a good fit for anybody. The NBA moved on from him after failing with the Lakers. Hasn't even been a full month, franchise already seeking to trade him. Only team to save him might very well be Sacramento. A trade with Dennis Schröder wouldn't shock anybody at this point. Only way for Russell to be effective, come off the bench, get a quick dozen points in 5 to 8 possessions. When the team needs a momentum shift, then sit him back down. One of those guys, you know how he'll play out. After missing his first couple jumpers, can shoot teams out of the gym. The fact that Nico Harrison traded Quentin Grimes, brought back Dante out for the season XM, and signing D'Lo when he preaches defense wins championships, an absolute disaster of a travesty franchise. To Mavs fans, D'Lo just another Christian Wood, but a point guard version of that. Team should have just kept Dennis Smith Jr. instead, at least he's far better on D. The Miles Turner's contract, the audacity to backstab Dame Lillard knowing he missed the entire season, getting an above average starting center who's nothing special. Milwaukee under 500 16 games into the season, averaging a typical 12-6 with a good 3-point shot, doing what's expected. but already a finished product, hasn't improved or declined. Being stagnant, signed for 4 years $109, not the problem, but waiving and stretching Lillard's contract cost the team $220 million over the next 4 seasons. At the end of the day, this team with the current players around Giannis, not good enough to get out the East. If the Bucks were 13-4, dominating and Turner's looking like a borderline all-star, that's a different story. But franchise being super desperate, continuing to waste Giannis' pursuit as a second title should be a crime itself. The other signings of washed up Gary Harris, seriously? Why? What for? Because him and Miles Turner have the same agent, literally does nothing for the team, especially having tons of 6'3 to 6'5 combo guards. Torian Wallace Prince needing neck surgery, also 2 years $7 million. After what he did last playoffs, franchise needs to do the right thing, trade Giannis soon. Indiana being losers for not only lowballing Miles Turner, but wasting away with a bunch of backup caliber centers, weird mixing of Isaiah Jackson, Tony Bradley, Jay Huff, and James Wiseman. None of these guys were ever gonna cut it. The franchise elected to go cheap, that's the type of production they'll see. Wiseman waived after playing just 1 game. Tony Bradley isn't it. Despite playing during last playoffs, still most remembered for being carried like a toddler by Steven Adams. Jay Huff doesn't have the conditioning to play starting minutes, not the savior franchise looking for. Isaiah Jackson, the best big in the group, signed 3 years $21, a foul machine, coming back from an Achilles tear. There's no reason for Indy to pay him a multi-year deal. Jackson received great money for sitting on the bench the whole season. If he's still Indy's backup center when Halliburton comes back, team won't look very promising. Pelicans having to pay Kevon Looney 2 years $16 million, the same amount Lakers paying DeAndre Ayton. If locked in, Ayton, the way better player than the limited undersized slow center, quickly got hurt, forcing New Orleans to sign DeAndre Jordan. Looney's already been on the decline with Golden State, lost a step on defense, only playable in certain matchups, only due to being a vet on an accomplished franchise did Joe Dumars want him. Wasting away money on somebody with zero impact, Looney himself would have rather take less money riding the bench watching Steph Curry rain threes instead of sitting next to sleepy Zion Williamson in street clothes, watching the worst team in his conference get blown out by 30 every night. Nikola Jovic, getting the rookie extension from Miami, late first round pick of the 2022 draft, 4 years $62 million, looking way too much, paying much more for his lack of production, numbers of 9 and 5 at 6'10, can't rebound, 22 years old, confident, looks derailed, super injury prone, hasn't played more than 46 games each of his first 3 seasons. If Spo can't figure out how to utilize him, Jovic will continue riding the bench next couple seasons and likely fade out the league. His biggest problem is he don't even know what his strengths are, the type of guy who might need to get sent to the G League and get his head right before things get even uglier. Time and time again, the most desperate NBA front offices will continue burning millions on players who just don't fit. From injuries, chemistry issues, washed vets, the worst for these several teams has yet to come.